Report. It is March 23rd, 2025. We're going to be going through it. I know we were off yesterday. I took the day off. Had to get up at 5:30 in the morning to go to a sports ball tournament across the way. So it was a good day, though. For the most part, we didn't win, but we learned a lot. There's a good amount going on. Really, the Middle East is kind of on fire again. And the big question today is Israel possibly going to go head-to-head with Turkey? That could be a problem. So let me set it up for you, and we'll go through everything. There are talks between the Syrian government and Turkey about giving Turkey some of the bases and some of control of the land in the northeastern portion, which the Israelis don't really like. So there are issues with that, and we're just going to have to see how it plays out. But there are security meetings going on right now on what it would look like if Israel and Turkey were to go head-to-head. Iran is being warned by the Americans that they're going to really need to stop and step away from their nuclear desires. Waltz was on the Sunday shows basically going around saying, hey, we're going to show the world that we don't really want them to have nuclear weapons. And so from there, of course, there are now the beginning starts of talks between the Americans and the Russians in Saudi Arabia about a ceasefire. They're aiming for late April for that. Things are kind of going good, but of course, you've got Ukraine and Russia still going back and forth with each other, chucking over missiles and drones and stuff, and kind of heightening all the attacks there. But really, Ukraine is on its last legs, and the only thing that's keeping it propped up is Europe, which for some reason really has a death wish against a direct conflict with Russia. And one of the major figures of the European Union came out and said, we really need to keep going with this whole Ukraine thing so we can avoid World War III, which, of course, any sentient, smart human being knows that is in complete opposite of the truth. It's almost surreal in its statement. So let's get to it. Thanks for being here. Got some kids in the room. We are going to function this way. The crisis report is going to be moving to the mornings. It just simply works better. I get more sleep. I'm not tired. It's everything. I've tried to function, but as our nights have gotten later, I've gotten later, and it just doesn't work. So the March 24th crisis report will be going at 6 a.m. is when I'm going to record it, and it will be unleashed onto the public at about 7:30 a.m. Eastern with a premiere. So we'll give YouTube their forewarning and heads up so they can do all the little suppression techniques that they like to do and get ready for that. But we just keep going, and it's all going to keep going, and we're just going to keep going, and we'll let them enjoy their little whatever it is they're doing right now, because I can assure you in the not so distant future it will be ended, because there's too much pressure and too much going towards the pro-freedom movement than there is on this whole industrial complex of sensing or whether you're going to take a ship. So, as you know. But they'll figure it out, because they're going to get their butts kicked. They already are getting their butts kicked. And we're just going to keep doing what we do here. I'm not going to cloak words or anything. I'm just going to say it. So, as I just got done saying the scent or, you know what I mean, ship word. You get the point. So, let's get started on your March 23rd, 2025 crisis report. Thanks so much for being here. Here we go. Last night, Israeli bombed Syria. The Israeli military announced it had struck 2 military bases in control of Syria. Israeli warplanes conducted 8 air raids against the Syrian military air base in Palmyra. Israeli airstrikes were reported against the T4 air base in Palmyra Airport in Homs, Syria. And that's where it goes, and it's basically been escalating since. Houthis from Yemen have officially declared that Ben Gurion International Airport in central Israel is unsafe for travel and will remain a target until the aggression against the Gaza Strip ends. They have called on all airlines to suspend flights from the airport. Trump's special envoy, Witkoff, on the main issue of the conflict between Ukraine, Putin, and negotiations. Zelensky almost admitted that Ukraine will not become a member of NATO. Ukrainian leadership agreed the need to hold presidential elections. The central issue of the conflict is the recognition of the territories occupied by Russia. Calling the latest negotiations between Trump and Putin unsuccessful is Ukrainian troops are surrounded in Kursk. This is a fact. It is a fact. There's anybody saying that's not, then produce the satellite like the other side has done. Prove that it's a fact. They are surrounded. It's satellite documented. Russia 100% does not plan to attack European countries. Trump and Putin may meet in the coming months. Ceasefire agreement in the Black Sea could come into effect as early as next week. I liked him. I think he was frank with me. Witkoff said of the meeting with Putin. Large-scale bombardment by the Israeli army on militant positions at the heights of Rehan, Safi, Sahid, Melita, and Dur Basalia, southern Lebanon. Israeli Army, IDF, released an evacuation order for the living in Shujaiya, the southern quarter of the old city of Gaza. To all those in this shelter, whether in the tent or in the building, you are in a dangerous combat zone and the location is not safe. Evacuate immediately and move as far away as possible. 47 PLA aircraft, 7 PLAN vessels, and one official ship operating around Taiwan were detected up until 6 a.m. local. 41 of the 47 sortie crossed the median line and entered Taiwan's northern, southwestern, and eastern ADs. Each time the situation is boiling in the Middle East, it's that idiot's thoughts. He can just be quiet because he's stupid. Oh, he's got a YouTube channel. So if you want to go over there and I bet you money it's not going to be there long. Hungarian Prime Minister Orban and Serbian Prime Minister Vučić are about to sign a military alliance agreement. Both countries are bolstering their military. Serbia's military has grown bigger than any other countries combined in the region. Speaking of other YouTube channels, the sister channel of this that is the backup and unknown and not tied to my burner phone, JASE. If one of the mods wants to put that in there for about 2 minutes to people go over and sub. I am doing about 3-4 little 5-minute videos a week over there now because I got a good mojo going on different things. It's very plaintive. It's very down the center, you know. If you want to join me over there, it'd be great. We are growing. That is the backup should anything happen over here to this channel. I would love to have you over there. That is the GIC, also known as the Global. We talk about Intel, and I think it's on a channel, okay? Germany and Britain announced travel advisory for traveling to the United States, according to The Independent. Breaking updates on Lebanon, another Israeli airstrike on the town of Al-Khalila, targeted an inhabited house, not uninhabited, but inhabited, so there's someone there. Yet the Israeli army launched another blatant violation against the ceasefire agreement and launched also a raid on Kaisaran on the Zahrani coast, southern Lebanon. Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Shalom cancels the visit to Sidon and resumes his contacts to follow up on the situation in the south. Dual sources to Al Jadid: Israel is trying to expand its aggression against Lebanon and may fabricate whatever. This guy is anti. I don't even know where he is. He's so all over the place with everything. It's really tough to tell sometimes. Elon Musk's X has suspended accounts of Turkish opposition groups suppressing footage of anti-government protests. U.S. Department of Defense reveals aircraft carrier request to leave the Red Sea after attacks by the Ansarullah movement from Yemen, according to a report. Is that guy? Oh, okay. Yeah, there he is. His name is whatever. If you want to check him out, it's on the Crisis Report, which is on Substack, PrepperNow.substack.com. If you want to go to this Butthead's links and follow him, go for it. See, that's how you do it. Isn't that interesting, Tube? See, I don't try to suppress him. I put him out there. I give him my personal thoughts. And then if people want to go there and follow his jackass, they can do it. I don't need to stop him. I know who's got the better information. I know who's got the more complete information. I'll let the information stand on its own. I don't need to suppress or do any crap like that. I just let things happen and know that organically things will work out. Pretty cool that way. Conor McGregor will run for president of Ireland. He called on people to vote for him on the upcoming elections. He is staunchly opposed and against migrants, which is a pillar of his election platform. Israel has broken a ceasefire with Hezbollah and resumed bombing southern Lebanon. Israel's opposition leader Yair Lapid says that the government is doing everything to start a CW here. Netanyahu is openly pushing forth. There's also like a big problem with their judiciary and my iPhone. I just clicked out. I had a notification. My iPhone just freaking went like, you ever like touch your iPhone and it takes you to Texas? It just starts going, it's like, bloop, bloop, bloop, and you're like all of a sudden in some weird app. Oh, that's what my iPhone just did. Anyway, yeah. Where was I? Yeah, there's a big judiciary issue going on in Israel as well. And so their judiciary is very towards the left side of things and very active and doing whatever it can to basically stop the government from doing what they're doing. Like they want to get rid of the Shin Bet guy, and they came in and said, we can't do that. We're like, well, this is an executive function, not a judicial function. Then okay, it's literally the same thing. Israel not bombing Hezbollah targets in Lebanon. Japan, China, South Korea. This is interesting. Met as U.S. tariff pressures are rising. Foreign ministers of Japan, China, and South Korea held trilateral talks in Tokyo, seeking to further cooperation and lay the groundwork for a potential leadership summit. Meeting took place on the same day as Japan and China's first economic dialogue in 6 years, aimed at reducing tensions between the two nations as they face trade pressure from the United States. Trump has revoked security clearances for Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton. Administration has said it will revoke the temporary legal status of 530,000 Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans. Israel has launched airstrikes on Palmyra, T4 airports, Homs Desert last night. Israeli army released videos. Israel threatens to permanently annex parts of the Gaza Strip. Israel has threatened to annex parts of the Gaza Strip unless Hamas releases remaining hostages, escalating conflict with the IDF. Airstrikes instructed the IDF to seize additional areas in Gaza, evacuate the population, expand the security zones in Gaza in order to protect Israeli communities and IDF soldiers, as according to Katz, the defense minister. Hamas said ceasefire negotiations were continuing. Hamas official Hussam Badran says the group could be more flexible on ceasefire terms, including releasing hostages to restart talks to end the war. Israel, however, remains opposed to any deal that allows Hamas to remain in control of Gaza. 3 rockets were fired from Lebanon at Metula on Israel's northern border, according to the IDF. The rockets were intercepted. It is the first rocket attack on the northern border in 3 months. U.S. considers the recognition of Russian-occupied territories a key issue when it comes to the envoy with Witkoff. Donbas and Crimea, both Russian-speaking regions, held referendums where the majority expressed a desire to be under Russian rule. Ukraine has agreed to hold presidential elections with a confirmed schedule. The reason why is Crimea is the Russian bathtub. The Black Sea is the Russian bathtub. The Crimea is the base of their submarines. It is strategic, it is military, and they need it because the rest of the country is a frozen tundra. So they need that warm water port, essentially. That's where they're fighting and have been fighting. Trump's envoy, one of the reasons. Trump's envoy, Witkoff, on Europe, Russia, and Ukraine. There's the notion that we're all going to be Winston Churchill-like. Russians are going to march across Europe. I think that's preposterous. Russians don't want to march across Europe 100%. Why would they want to absorb Ukraine for that purpose? They don't need to absorb Ukraine. This would be what would be like occupying Gaza. Why do Israelis really want to occupy Gaza for the rest of their lives? They don't. They want stability. Russians, who also have what they want, they've reclaimed these 5 regions. They have Crimea. They've gotten what they want. So why do we need more? It's a good question. I really don't either think that Russia wants to march across Europe either. And that's kind of this big, oh, they want to do it. I don't think so. Russia and Ukraine will take part in U.S. brokered ceasefire talks in Saudi Arabia, but not in direct negotiations. Discussions will focus on a ceasefire in the Black Sea, but broader peace remains elusive. Russia wants to end the Western aid. Ukraine wants an unconditional ceasefire. Europe is being sidelined as the U.S. takes the lead on the negotiations. Who will attend meetings as intermediaries? Well, Russia's got Grigory Kutasin, Foreign Affairs Senator, Sergei Beseda, FSB advisor. Ukraine has Defense Minister Rustem Umerov, Pavlo Palisa, Presidential Office. U.S. has Michael Anton, State Department, and aides Keith Kellogg, Trump's envoy. German President Steinmeier assigned amendments to the Constitution to increase the national debt in order to increase defense spending. Russian Foreign Ministry says the Russian Federation reserves the right to a symmetrical response in connection with Ukraine's ongoing strikes on energy facilities. Kiev, by striking Russian energy facilities, demonstrates its complete inability to negotiate and lack of desire for peace. Germany sticks to the F-35 purchase despite concerns. Defense Minister Boris Pistorius reaffirmed Germany's commitment to purchasing 35 F-35 stealth fighters from the United States, despite concerns over dependency on the United States military technology under the Trump administration. $10 billion euro package covers aircraft maintenance, spare parts, and munitions. Reports of a possible kill switch that could allow the U.S. to disable the jets remotely were dismissed by Germany's defense ministry, stating there is no way to shut down the F-35 remotely. Rheinmetall CEO Armin Papperger warned against canceling the deal, saying we have no comparable alternative. Walking away could harm Germany's reliability in defense partnerships. Canada's next election will take place on April 28th, CBC reports. Russian World War II veteran begged Putin to send him to the front line in Ukraine, saying, I was a machine gunner from 41 to 45. I participated in the front, sent me to Ukraine to defend Russia. Another day, another scramble for physical gold, pushing COMEX gold to a record high, 41.6 million ounces. Real action is now clearly in silver, where we are seeing an unprecedented delivery scramble, pushing total silver also to a record high. Expect price moves soon. Cabinet unanimously reappoints Ben-Gvir as police minister, ignoring AG's objections. Netanyahu's cabinet unanimously reappoints Ben-Gvir as the national security minister, ignoring Attorney General's objections after Israel's resumed offensive in Gaza paved the way for Otzma Yachidit's return to the governing coalition. Bernie Sanders says his rally with AOC in Denver drew a whole 34,000 people, largest ever. He called it proof that the Americans are ready to resist Trump's push toward oligarchy and authoritarianism, declaring, we will fight back, we will win. Bernie, why is 63% of Americans want everybody that is here outside of the legal structure to be returned to wherever they came from? That's because people don't really align with your politics anymore. Hamburg. Taiwan just signed a deal to invest $44 billion in Alaska natural gas pipeline, committed to purchasing LNG from Alaska. Taiwanese president said Alaska is a source of high-quality natural gas and relatively short distance from Taiwan facilitates transportation. We are very interested in buying Alaskan natural gas because it can meet our need and ensure our energy security. U.S. Navy carrier strike group updates. Vincent, CSG, moving in the Middle East. Westpac. Truman, CSG, deployment extended, conducting continuous strike operations against the Houthis. Nimitz departed Bremerton for its final deployment. USNI reports it will take 2 to 3 weeks for the Vincent to reach CENTCOM, which will overlap with Truman's expected 1-month extension, positioning 2 carrier strike groups in the theater. Last August, United States also had 2 aircraft carriers in the Middle East, with the Lincoln and the Roosevelt overlapping for 3 weeks. Nimitz, which has been working off the West Coast, left Friday on its 22nd and final deployment. Ford began Comp 2X on 14th March and will deploy after completion. Dual carrier coverage and CENTCOM confirmed. Whether a third arrives depends on 1, how long Ford takes to complete training, 2, where Nimitz ends up, and 3, length of Truman and Vincent deployment extensions. Donald Trump suggests the United States could join the British Commonwealth. President Donald Trump suggested that the United States could join the British Commonwealth on Friday in a post on Truth Social, his social media platform. The President shared an article from British tabloid The Sun reporting that King Charles III was making a secret offer to the White House and that plans are in place for the U.S. to become an associate member of the international organization. Quote, "I love King Charles. Sounds good to me," Trump wrote in response to the report. France said to float using most powerful EU trade tool on the U.S. France wants the European Union to consider deploying its most powerful retaliatory measures against the United States for the first time ever if Donald Trump uses tariffs to unfairly force the bloc into policy changes. Everybody's waiting for that April 2nd date. Ukraine-Russia war. This is an update from the front line from the perspective of the Russians. The Russian Federation has continued to carry out massive drone strikes on Ukrainian cities. Last night, strikes targeted Kiev. Over the past few days, Russia has also attacked Odessa and Zaporozhye. Experts note that Moscow aims to make Kiev more compliant ahead of the next round of negotiations, which will take place in Saudi Arabia tomorrow, March 24th, 2025. It is worth recalling that tomorrow's talks will focus on establishing a ceasefire regarding energy infrastructure facilities. Both sides are completing the regrouping of their units from the Savatov direction in the near future, most likely over or after the breakdown of tomorrow's negotiations. Active hostilities are expected to resume. Massive strikes on Kiev. Zelensky prepares Kharkiv for defense. Jailed Istanbul mayor and main rival of Turkish President Erdogan, Ekrem İmamoğlu, calls for the mass protests across Turkey. Strong geomagnetic storm is predicted for today. NOAA forecasters are predicting a strong G3 class geomagnetic storm on March 23rd when a CME is expected to directly hit Earth. Should affect the tube tonight if you're having problems with live streaming. NTSB recommends 68 bridges in the United States to be evaluated for risk of collapse. I'm not going to go through them all, but in California, like the Coronado Bridge, which I'm pretty sure is in San Diego, Golden Gate Bridge. Florida, you've got the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. Illinois, you've got the Chicago Skyway Bridge. Louisiana, you got the Israel Lafleur Bridge. Maryland, you've got the Bay Bridge on both bounds. I drove that sucker not so long ago. Chesapeake City Bridge. Massachusetts, Sagamore Bridge. Michigan, you've got the Mackinac Bridge. New York, you got the Verrazano Narrows going into freaking Jersey. And then you got more from there. Basically all the bridges in New York, it looks like. Ohio around the Cuyahoga. And Oregon, Astoria, Megler Bridge. Texas, the Buffalo Bayou Toll Bridge. Hartman, Gulf Gate, Wisconsin, Leo Frigo Bridge. There's a lot of bridges. A lot of our infrastructure is screwed up. Just, it is what it is. So, IRS is close to agreement with ICE to share addresses of suspected undocumented immigrants. U.S. Navy deploys additional warships to curb illegal immigration, drug smuggling, southern border. Trump envoy says Putin is not planning to invade all of Europe. NASA is considering closing its D.C. headquarters as part of Trump's initiative to reduce the size of the federal government. Leading American scientists warn that the Rona gibbities can trigger acquired hemophilia A deadly autoimmune disorder, according to a George Washington University study. I went over to X, and you had some of our bleeding heart liberals over there saying, no, you'd rather have Rona. Would you rather have Rona or hemophilia A? I know I'd rather have hemophilia A. My God, you should take the Jibity. It is the best thing ever for your arm. It will make you live long and happy. Needless to say, about 100 comments after rip that person apart, but it is absolutely amazing to see these troll farms, their last grasps of hope. Oh, man. It'll be a wonderful day when they get finally put into their place. Robert F. Kennedy has launched an online tool for users to check the chemical contaminants in food and other products. God, right-wing extremism. Right-wing extremism. Zelensky is demanding Ukraine's NATO membership, warning that without it, Ukraine will be forced to provide indefinite financial support. Barack Obama used JASE to send money overseas under the guise of foreign aid, and it through Cayman Islands and came out, and then basically people that gathered together to fight against democracy, democracy, to stage protests and overthrow things. Pope Francis, Frankie, makes his first public appearance after spending several weeks in the hospital. Tel Aviv University President Ariel Porat warned that the university could shut down if the government refuses to comply with Supreme Court rulings, including decisions on the dismissal of the Shin Bet chief and attorney general. Several university leaders have also called on the government to uphold the rule of law, warning of severe consequences for democracy because democracy. Report from Yemen. Several field commanders and leading figures in the missile launch system were killed tonight. U.S. military strikes on the Marab district. Defense Minister Yisrael Katz proposal to establish a voluntary transfer administration for Gaza residents to a third country was approved. We will allow any Gaza resident who is interested to leave voluntarily. IDF spokesperson. Following alerts that were activated a short time ago in several areas of the country, the Air Force intercepted one missile launched from Yemen. The missile was intercepted before it crossed into the country's territory. The alerts were activated according to policy. David Schenker, who was the United States Assistant Secretary of State for Middle East Affairs during Trump's first term and knows Lebanon in depth, said that the Lebanese government prefers that Israel continue its operations against Hezbollah rather than having to do it itself. The American administration is pleasantly surprised by the way things are going in Lebanon and implementation of Resolution 1701. Shabah farms, which Hezbollah uses to justify its confrontation with Israel, are actually Syrian territory. Turkish court dismissed charges against Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu on suspicion of terror offenses, but extended his detention on suspicion of corruption. This means that the Turkish government will not be able to appoint a replacement for the mayor, and İmamoğlu's opposition party will choose his successor. So the drama in Turkey is that the protesters have now entered Erdogan's palace in Istanbul. It's still not clear if it's the Palace of Justice or the presidential palace. Are we going towards the fall of the regime? Well, reports in Turkey that Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu has been imprisoned after his detention was extended. Earlier, he said Turkey has been betrayed, calling for widespread protests. That is what a true democracy looks like. Envoy Witkoff, in an interview with Fox News, says Hamas has rejected all recent proposals for a deal. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, talks with the United States are no longer possible unless certain things change. Our refusal to negotiate with the U.S. is due to history and experience, not stubbornness. White House aims for Russia-Ukraine truce for April 20th, according to Bloomberg. Z-Man says this week more than 1,580 guided aerial bombs, almost 1,100 strike drones, and 15 missiles of various types were used against our people. All this weaponry contains at least 102,000 foreign components. Kremlin barked back that if necessary, Putin and Trump can also communicate via link video. Such a line continues to exist and can be put into play. Death toll from the Israeli-Gaza thing is surpassed 50,000 of people, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu has been formally removed from office, Erdogan's interior ministry says. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is set to hold a security meeting within the next hour regarding Turkey's increased influence in Syria. That is the big trend and where things are going and where the problems are going to be. HTS regime is in advanced talks to hand over territory in Tadmur area to Turkish military, Walla News reports. Israeli defense source says direct Israeli-Turkish friction in Syria is unavoidable. United States National Security Advisor Mike Waltz says the United States aims for complete dismantling of Iran's nuclear program in a way that the whole world is going to see. United States National Security Advisor Mike Waltz also said the U.S. has eliminated key Houthi leadership and strikes on Yemen, targeting weapons factories and some drones facilities. Trump envoy Witkoff on Ukraine's occupied territories. It is Putin's speeches that these are Russian territories. This is not me taking sides. I said, don't see that Putin wants to take all of Europe. This is a much different situation than it was in World War II. There was no NATO back then. I take him at his word. I think the Europeans are beginning to come to that belief too. Andreas Kubilius, the European Commissioner for Defense, Industry, and Space, said, there are 450 million Europeans. We should not be crying out for 340 million Americans to defend us against 140 million Russians who are not even able to defeat 38 million Ukrainians. So we really need to take more responsibility onto our own shoulders and do that without delays, because the threats and urgency are already here. Absolutely correct. Bro, my name's Paul. That's between y'all. You guys do you, okay? Leave us out of it. Go get your own freaking army. About 60 Russian Shahed kamikaze UAVs launched an assault on the Ukrainian capital of Kiev overnight, causing impacts in various residential buildings after flew in low altitude. One person is burned alive as a result of the latest terror attacks by Moscow ahead of the ceasefire agreement. The United States wants Iran to abandon the nuclear program completely, otherwise Tehran will face consequences, according to White House National Security Advisor Waltz. Intensive flights by the Israeli military helicopters over a number of areas and towns in the south and southwest of Jenin, West Bank, Palestine. Israeli security source warns of a potential direct clash with Turkey on Syrian soil. Prime Minister Netanyahu will convene the security cabinet on the matter later this evening. 2 nights ago, the IAF launched an unusual wave of strikes to disable strategic capabilities at air bases, Palmyra and T4, central Syria. These are bases that Turkey has its eye on. Kaja Kallas, European Union, said that Russia's defeat in Ukraine is necessary to avoid World War III. Next time, Sugar, why don't you just say, please nuke us, and just wrap it up from there. And a meeting between Ukraine and the American team has begun in Riyadh. Ukrainian Defense Minister Umerov has said. Who will win? Well, let's hope there is a ceasefire, because as they diga in Espanol, putitas, like this Callas woman, she's really trying to get the world into a war. And we don't want that. No, we don't. If you'd like a world war, put a 1 in the chat. If you'd like no world war, put a 2. All right, friends, that is your crisis report for March 23rd, 2025. Hit the buttons and stuff. Thanks so much for being understanding. The next one will come out tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. I'll probably do a lead-up video in the night and switch those up. So the mornings will come out, and then in the afternoon, we'll do a lead-up video so you guys can stay informed, and we can do all the little view things that the tube likes us to do to keep coming back for more, because that's what they do. So honestly, this channel's been all right. PrepperNow's been getting the business, but whatever, as we say to them. And I'd say, friends, keep doing the things. God bless. Hit that like button. Join us here as a member if you like my homeboy Sway, or homegirl, not sure. And yeah, keep coming back for more. We're not going to stop. The intel's going to keep flowing. And we're getting more dangerous. Trust me, if you think things are calming down, well, you got another thing coming. You got another thing coming. All right, we'll see you on the next one. God bless. PrepperNow.substack.com. We got some videos coming out on PrepperNow for the evening, and we'll see you on the next.